Welcome back to our segment where we'll be looking at all the stories that made it to the front pages of the newspaper this morning. Select newspapers, I dare to say, this morning. And as it's a tradition, we would begin with the Daily Trust. And the Daily Trust this morning, it's a sad day for Nigeria, and it's aptly captured by the front page there. And if you like the use of colors, Akeredolu dies at 67. Aiyedatiwa sworn in as Ondo Governor. Announces appointments. Late governor's aides resigns. Well, that was quick. Tinubu.
Yeah, it was quick, but also you get a sense that because of the hostility that took part, that shaped the conversation in Ondo State for the past couple of months. They already know that they're going to be on their way out.
That's right.
Because they're in the bad books, so to say.
That's right.
So it's better to save face and resign than to be kicked out, I guess.
Announces appointments. Late governor's aides resign. Tinubu, Buhari, Atiku, others mourn. Tributes to ex-speaker Gali Abba buried in Kano. And I think we saw footages there of the vice president, making it from Jos to Kano to be part of that interment ceremony.
Aiyedatiwa has just announced 3 days of mourning in Ondo State.
I would have thought that would have been the first proclamation or announcement after his swearing in yesterday. But there were two big losses for this country, if you like, people who have paid their prices.
They look older than their ages.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Akeredolu, they say, is just 67.
Yeah. It's basically 1 or 2 years away from Gali Abba. But just looking at the faces alone, you would think they were 10 years apart.
Yeah.
And they make their mark very early on in the life
really
of this country. This country will miss them so dearly. Two other stories. Malhandling of CBN investigations reports can create distrust and panic. This is coming from experts, very notable ones there, including Professor Obada, who is a member of the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank, as well as Professor Waleke. You want to look at that report. Just as the Apex Bank assures depositors of the safety of their funds. Edo 2024, Obaseki slashes Shoaibu's budget. Deputy Governor insists on competence. I hear the budget dropped from 17 billion to 300 and something million. That's crazy.
So they made up in public, but apparently that was not an honest one.
Yeah.
There's still some bad blood there. But, just moments ago we were talking about it. You made a point of it, and I would say it goes back to 2003, 2004, just before 2006, and heading into the elections, the famous Obasanjo-Atiku feud.
That's right.
I think that solidified this whole relationship between the boss and the supposed next of kin politically.
Yeah. And to other stories, how cyber attack exposed Nigeria's IT security vulnerability in 2023. You remember famously how the then Minister of Communication would tell us that we had over 1.5 million attack on the eve of the presidential election directed at government's website. Bandits always a step ahead of government. Sultan, embrace peace, stop killing, Shatima tells Plateau people. ACF, that's Arewa Consultative Forum, calls for state of emergency in banditry-prone communities, and Northern reps seek support for victims. These are the major stories on the front page of the Daily Trust.
Let's take a look at the front page of the Guardian newspaper for today, December 28th. End of an era. Sunset for Akeredolu. New dawn for Lucky Aiyedatiwa. And, it's very telling that the former governor, may so rest in peace, is now given the smaller picture frame. And the new sheriff in town, you can see him there dressed immaculately, from former to acting and now substantive governor of Ondo State. There he was, as he was being sworn in yesterday, and the tributes flow in. Civil society groups, lawyers mourn Akeredolu and Gali Abba. Rivers elders write Tinubu Fubara on illegality of peace pact. Listen, Fubara has thrown in the towel, but apparently the people in River State, at least some of his kingsmen, do not believe that that is the best deal they can get.
We're trying to wrap our heads around the developments in Rivers, some of the public comments of the governor, as opposed to the positions of stakeholders in the state. And somebody just said in passing that the people are doing the talking for the governor, and he's simply putting up the act to suggest.
Right. You think?
That, well, I'm not sure what to think at this point, considering that the president has to praise him in his Christmas speech, and dare to even call him his son. Well, everybody is the president's president's son, but he dared to. I think he sort of won the heart of the president by making public pronouncements that suggest that he's going to go with whatever the president has suggested. But that is not exactly the comments on ground, and I doubt he would ignore some of the concerns.
This fight is long, is far away from over. You can definitely bet on that. Well, read more on that on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. Federal government assures justice for victims of Plateau attacks. OK's immediate circa. Haven't we heard this before? Justice for Tudumbiri, justice for every other extrajudicial killings and attacks. Well, that famous fine, FCCPC slams $110 million fine on British American Tobacco for violation. Zenith Bank named Best Bank for Digital Solutions. Tinubu seeks council's monarch's support for development. We had that story for you earlier in the day. And Plateau killing, Sultan charges government on proactive intelligence gathering. More on this and many other stories across the pages of the Guardian newspaper for today.
All right, we'll move on to the Nation newspaper. And it is staying with development in Ondo State. Aiyedatiwa steps in after Akeredolu. Governor died in his sleep in German hospital. He was fearless, says Tinubu in tribute. Governors, Buhari, senators, APC leaders, Jimo Ibrahim, NBA, others mourn. And there we see pictures of the new governor after taking his oath of office yesterday, as well as that of the late governor Akeredolu, born 1956, which puts him at about 67, is it?
Yeah, 67.
Yeah. To other stories, Shetima, Shekarau, Kwankwaso, others bid Naaba farewell as ex-House of Reps leader buried. No plan to take over banks, says CBN. I think this reaction is coming in the face of how the special investigation report has been handled. Yeah. The question of bank ownership and how they acquired and all of that, very technical issues. One would have thought that we would have treated those issues with some level of discretion, because even where a takeover would happen, you don't want to mismanage that information to forestall a run on some of these banks. But
don't you think it was calculated? I don't think the special investigator would have just decided to run his mouth just for the fun of it. I think it was a calculated attempt to get the information out there to perhaps gauge the public response or something, so that some of those informations do not get, hidden in a way, or
yeah, but you also have to respect the authorities that commission the report. You are not working for yourself in it. So naturally, the way government works, with what some of the experts told us yesterday in the bid to develop our stories, they said there are procedures for these things. Even where you have done the best of reports, they are subject to scrutiny, and a white paper is usually issued, which then shows the direction of government. So it's not enough for you to do that and then go ahead and leak out those reports before the president even takes his time to independently look at those reports and make his mind up what is best, because some problems have political solutions. You don't have to do things in the way you have suggested. But like you said, we cannot completely say what the ideas are behind why these reports were leaked and what objectives they are meant they are meant to achieve. But let's see how developments unfolds after these revelations. The president would have to make his position known at some point.
I think the government is trying to win the hearts and minds of the people, because this is now in the public domain, and in the court of public opinion, Emefiele and the likes are guilty of all of these allegations. and I think that's what they're trying to achieve.
All right, and I hope they get their day in court to be able to explain some of the mind-boggling revelations in this report. Moving on to other stories, CBN investigator rejects Lemo order's request. I thought his report is done, and they submitted the report to the president. When we saw letters flying around ordering and summoning people to reappear, I said to myself, is this a perpetual responsibility? And where do you derive the power to continue to order people around? Well, let's see how that continues. And Zenith Bank is Nigeria's best in digital solution. And Plateau's mayhem, death toll rises as Vice President condoles with community. And finally, pipeline vendors responsible for explosion in rivers. This is coming from the Nigeria Security Civil Defense Corps.
At Omoku community in River State, they were trying to siphon the fuel and unguarded pipeline, and 20 plus people lost their lives as a result of that. Okay. The Punch newspaper is up next, so let's take a look at the front page of the Punch newspaper. Some similar stories there, but we start from the top, from the Vice President's visit to Plateau State, where the federal government vows justice. Inspector General sends squad after killers. Always reactive, not proactive. And it's just, really insults the sensibility of people, because all of these agencies have the capability to get ahead of these developments. As the Sultan rightly said, we have to find a way to be proactive regarding security.
That's right.
And preventing some of these devastating incidents from happening. Federal government fines British American Tobacco $110 million, drop criminal charges. Railway debt servicing exceeds revenue by 1,200%, according to a report. The same railway that we are giving free rides.
That's right.
For people. Apparently they're not breaking even, they're not able to make money, and if we keep giving free train rides,
we'll never be able to repay those loans.
Exactly. The big story, of course, is the sad development in Ondo State, where Aiyedatiwa has taken over as President Tinubu, and governors across Nigeria say Akeredolu's death a big loss. Aiyedatiwa lists Akeredolu's achievements, deceased governors, aides resign, workers mourn. Akeredolu, great fighter, says Tinubu, governors, others. Ondo declares 3-day mourning. And you can see there the picture of the unmistakable Aki, or there's other nickname. Is it Aketi rather, and then the other one too. But he's come to symbolize a true, virtue of political leadership, high quality leadership, I must say. Arakuri, yeah. So, and then you have the picture there of the Chief Judge swearing in the new governor of Ondo State, Lucky Aiyedatiwa, as he takes over. In other news, insecurity, economic hardship to worsen in 6 states, according to the World Bank. I can't wait for the day the World Bank will wake up and give Nigerians some cheerful news.
Oh my God.
I think we deserve that, World Bank. If you're listening, we deserve some cheerful, positive news. Find the silver lining somewhere and tell us about it. But obviously, there is no gainsaying this one. Nigerians have been living in this situation for quite some time. If you want to read more about the recent revelation by the World Bank, pick up the Punch newspaper today. Mob kills 2 over alleged murder in Ogun. And finally, ex-speaker Nabba buried in Kano. President, others mourn. That's it on the front page of the Punch newspaper.
All right, we'll move on to the Daily Independent. And on the Daily Independent, the lead story there, it's slightly away from what we have seen with other papers. Heritage Bank in futile effort at attracting strategic investors as Nigerian banks remain safe, sound, CBN assures. Zenith Bank wins Best Bank for Digital Solution in Nigeria. Nigeria FCCPC imposes 110 million fine on British American tobacco. And how Governor Akeredolu died by Ondo Governor or government. 5 months after, Lagos Airport's runway light thieves still unknown. We have reached over 90% reinstallation. How do you steal the airport?
I was just about to ask the question. The airport is not like your motor parks where anybody can just walk in anywhere.
To sensitive areas for that matter. And this place is, the Lagos Airport in particular, it's busy 24 hours of the year.
FAN has a new man in charge, right? After the reshuffle.
That's right.
The president did in the aviation sector. So I suppose he should have answers to that.
He should.
I think it's an inside job. There is no way someone from outside is going to walk
in there
on the tarmac and dig up all of these, infrastructure and then get away with it.
And to sell where exactly?
I mean, these are specialized equipments. You don't just go to the market and sell them.
All right, to other riders, to the story, we have reached over 90% reinstallation. That's from a FAN source. FAN should make report of investigation public. And that's what the stakeholders are saying, and I think that will be the right thing to do. Tomorrow's stories, we are working to turn around Nigeria's economic fortune. And that's coming from President Tinubu. Tinubu, Jonathan, Akpabio, Abbas, Ibori, Mark, Sanwo-Olu, Mons, Akeredolu, and Naaba. And finally, Aiyedatiwa sworn in as Ondo Governor, appoints CPS and aides. You'll find the pictures there also on the front page of the Daily Independent. And that's it on the front page of the Daily Independent. All right, that's the much we can bring to you today from the front pages of the paper. Unfortunately, our reviewer did not make it to the studio today. He probably would tell us why. The both of them bailed on us during the festive period. I'm sure the attraction of the rice and the chicken was stronger.
Oh, probably.
than discussing Nigeria's problem.
I doubt if Mario Nasser's excuse is the rice and chicken, but I'm sure he's going to have a reasonable explanation as to why he didn't show up today.
All right.
Maybe the producer didn't give him a call. I don't know. But this is his normal routine anyway.
Yeah. But nonetheless, you were able to bring the papers to you, I'm sure. We were able to meet your expectations in some way with some of the papers that we have reviewed this morning. And that's the much that we would be able to accommodate on our show this morning. If you've missed out on what was a very insightful conversation today, you can do well to catch up on our social media handles today on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, and on TikTok, and be part of all of our conversations going forward. Daybreak will come to you again tomorrow. But for today, I'm Sunday Michael Hagu, and you have a blessed day ahead.
Thank you very much for your time and company. We'll see you tomorrow. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Good morning.